Hey, it's Travel Gigolo, and this is a review of what for me is an absolutely spectacular campsite. That's Tashinga campsite at Matusadona National Park on the western side of Zimbabwe along the shores of Lake Kariba. Tashinga campsite is located on the very furthest western margin of Matusadona National Park. It's right on the shores of the lake. Now, Matusadona, like some of the other national parks in Zimbabwe, is quite remote, and getting here is a long drive from most places, not because of the distance necessarily, but because of the road infrastructure. So you can get here in three different ways. You can drive here via Karoi if you're coming from Harare or from Kariba, for example. That's coming from the north. You can drive here from the south. That's coming via Binga if you're coming from Bulawayo or Vic Falls, for example. Or you can catch a ferry here from Kariba. That ferry only has a capacity for 3 vehicles at a time, so there are limitations on the ferry. But that is the third way to get to Matusadona National Park and to Tashinga campsite, which is right next to the harbour. So what type of vehicle do you need to get here? If you're coming in the wet season, definitely a 4x4. I hope you've seen my episode on Matusadona National Park and getting here. If you haven't, then do check that video out. If you're coming in the wet season, definitely a 4x4. If you're coming in the dry season, you need a vehicle with really good clearance at least, and I still recommend a 4-wheel drive. If you don't have a 4x4, don't even consider this in the rainy season. Come here in the dry season if you can. In fact, just generally, come here in the dry season if you can. It's a lot easier to get here. Notably, with a 2-wheel drive, you will get here, I think, in the dry season. There are some steep parts of the road. The Africa Parks that has taken over Matusadona, the management of Matusadona, has done a lot of work on improving the roads to the park itself. However, there are still some steep sections. So with the 2-wheel drive, there is danger that you can start damaging the road. So a 4-wheel drive is definitely preferable. Trailers and caravans. You can get here with a proper off-road trailer or caravan. A conventional caravan is going to be very difficult to get here with. In fact, I think it's going to be impossible. There are some really steep gradients and there are some tight turns on the road as well, and some rocky areas that you've got to traverse with your car and your caravan in tow. So I don't think you can come here with a normal caravan at all. Coming here with an off-road trailer, make sure you're very patient and you take it slow. Should be relatively doable in the dry season. In the wet season, you may struggle because there are a couple of places where it gets a little bit muddy along the road. Relatively short sections, but that might make it a bit more difficult with the drag of your off-road caravan or trailer. In addition to that, there are a number of river crossings. So those do get flooded when there are torrential downpours, and that sort of torrent of water can last for a few hours, but typically it will subside as the day goes by if it stops raining. But note that there are a number of river crossings to get here. So right now when we've come here, Africa Parks has taken over the park and been managing it for about 2 years, and they've done a lot to improve the facilities. At this point, it is still a work in progress, but there are some great facilities here. There are concrete slabs on which you can set up your tent. There are also a set of tents that are permanently on site, which you can also book, so you don't have to bring your own tent if you are that way inclined. When it rains, the concrete plinths are quite helpful because there are typically tropical thunderstorms here, so it's a severe downpour in just a short period of time. And to avoid getting your tent flooded or the floor of your tent potentially flooded, it's nice that there are these concrete plinths on which to put your tent. There are 2 sets of bathrooms on the site. The one has been nicely refurbished at the time that we're here. The other is still in its old state and is probably still going to undergo refurbishment. The bathroom that's been done up is actually really nice. It's got some nice stone slabs inside, proper shower roses, hot water that's supplied by a solar system. Note though that the bathroom facilities only have 2 showers and 2 toilets each for ladies and for men. So that's 4 showers and 4 toilets altogether. Now, this is a relatively large campsite and there are a number of campsites within this Matusadona Tashinga camp. I think if it gets filled up with people, there might be quite a bit of competition for the bathrooms. However, at the time that we are here, we are the only people camping at Tashinga campsite, and it's absolutely amazing. In fact, we're the only visitors to the park at this stage, and it's an absolutely stunning place, and it's really amazing that we can have all of this to ourselves. Now, besides hot water, which is supplied by a solar geyser system, There is also cold water. This water is from the lake. It is filtered, but it is not treated. I don't know if the water is potable. However, it's certainly usable for your day-to-day type usage. I would recommend that you bring your own water with you. There's a single kitchen facility, which of course is shared for the entire campsite. I don't know if they'll put more kitchen facilities up, but that has a deep freeze. It has some tables and chairs. It also has a solar system, and there is a generator connected to that which runs the deep freeze. So that's quite a nice thing to have, especially in this area in the summer like we are now. The temperatures easily go into the 40s degrees centigrade. So it's really hot here and it is quite humid. So right now, although we're in the early evening, it is still really hot and humid. Each campsite has a braai stand. The braai stands don't have grids, but they are properly concrete built braai stands. Wood is supplied, so when we came here, all of the braai stands had stacks of wood in them. It's great mopani wood, fantastic for braai. There's a lot of shade on this campsite. There are giant mopani trees and fig trees. This really is a beautiful campsite in terms of the layout and how it looks and the feeling of being in the wilderness with these massive trees above you. It's really a tropical paradise. There's no electricity here, except at the kitchen. There is no lighting. You've got to bring your own lighting if you want lighting. The bathrooms do have solar-powered lighting, and so does the kitchen, so there is some lighting in those critical facilities. There's a couple of laundry basins and wash-up basins as well, but you know, like I say, looking at the size of the campsite and the number of fireplaces and campsites there isn't, I think, really enough if this campsite gets completely full, but the facilities are there. Take note, this is an unfenced campsite, and this is a Big 5 national park. So you will have, for example, elephants coming through the site. We've had a couple of incidents with those, and they will come right up to your tent and your car. So you've got to take reasonable precaution around that. There are a number of hippos. Of course, this is on the shores of Lake Kariba, so the hippos are out grazing, and those hippos can come into the site at night. Besides those, of course, there are other animals that come into the site, like impala, for example. There may be the occasional buffalo. We haven't seen any, but we have seen the signs of them. The campsites are not delineated. However, there are a set of concrete slabs and fireplaces, which kind of, to me, points out what a campsite is. You can fit, I think, one tent per concrete slab, but you can fit a number of tents on the ground as well, and that, I think, would work out well in the dry season, maybe not so well in the rainy season. It is not muddy. It is silty. Even after massive downpour like we've had last night of 70 millimeters or so, it's not muddy. It's a silty sort of campsite, so you don't walk around feeling like it's muddy. It isn't waterlogged and that sort of thing. So you could easily set up your tent on the ground as well. There's no grass on the campsite. It is pretty much an open campsite with a bit of silt and a bit of undergrowth beneath the trees and that sort of thing. It's not a grassed campsite. At this time, there are no purchaseables. There is a reception area, and there you can pay for your camping and your conservation fees and all that sort of stuff, but you cannot purchase anything on the site at this point in time. So you have to bring everything with you to Matusadona National Park for the amount of time that you're going to stay here. So there's no restaurant, there's no resort type vibes here. This is very much wilderness camping on the shores of Lake Kariba. And when I say wilderness, I mean wilderness mild, because there are facilities, of course. Now, getting here requires quite a bit of fuel because it's quite rugged going. And of course, us coming here in the wet season, it's a bit more fuel consumption than I suppose would be usual in the dry season. Now, we drove all the way here from Purchaseables National Park, and the nearest places to get fuel are Binga and Karoi, which are a fair distance away each. So what that means is that you've got to come here with sufficient fuel to be able to get into the park and to be able to get out as well. Getting out is going to take more fuel because you're driving up the escarpment, which is about a 700-meter rise in altitude. There's very limited cell phone reception here. You can get calls in and out depending on where you are standing in the campsite or next to the lakeshore. We've actually found that next to the lakeshore is where you can get a decent signal. There's occasional data as well. Largely, you're fairly cut off in respect of communications via cell phone. How to pay? We've paid in cash, US dollars. There was no other really feasible amenity to do that. Of course, you can do it via bank transfer as well if you've done your booking. We didn't book, we just pretty much drove here and pitched up with the hope of getting a site, and well, as you can see, we're the only people here. So be careful about expecting to pay by card. There is limited cell phone signal, so it's difficult to pay by card on a card machine. However, my understanding from the administration staff is that the intent is then to get machines on Wi-Fi so that you can make payments by card. The management has been fantastic. I really have to say that the guys are putting a lot of effort into improving the park and running the campsite as well. And we've only had really great interactions with the staff at the site. I think something to note is that there is a break for lunch, so if you get to between 1 and 2, you may find nobody at the reception. Plan around that, make sure you're here or you go and do your business at the right times of the day. Office otherwise opens at 6:30 in the morning and closes at 4:30 in the afternoon. So things to note in terms of potential dangers and hazards. Of course, like I said, this is an unfenced park. Now there are lions in the park. We haven't heard or seen any lion. There are elephants, there are buffalo, there are hippo, there are crocodiles. Obviously there's snakes as well. But usually we don't have interactions with any of these animals. We haven't seen any of these animals with the exception of elephants, which have been very curious and have come to the campsite. So if you've got to worry about anything, I think it is the elephants. Obviously, if you wander down to the shoreline, especially in the evening or at night, then you've got to worry about hippos as well, which can be very dangerous. This is a malaria zone. It is hot, it is humid, it is tropical. So make sure that you have your malaria prophylactics. Make sure that you have insect repellent or mosquito repellent. When the sun goes down and it's still and hot and humid like it is today, then there are bugs around, and potentially some of those bugs, of course, are going to be mosquitoes. So you've got to plan for that. I think you've got to expect it. Like I said, this is a humid tropical area, especially in the summer. So that's kind of the norm. Speaking of bugs, of course, they come towards your light in the evening. So if you've got light, you're going to have problems with bugs. So there are advantages to not having lighting. What we do is that we put a bright light to the side, facing one of the car wheels or something that's bright that it can reflect off. And that typically attracts the bugs to that area and leaves us in the clear. So activities at the site. The campsite's fantastic for birding. There are numerous species of bird here. There's bird sounds all the time. You wake up to bird sounds, you go through the day to bird sounds, you go into the evening to bird sounds, and you actually go to sleep to bird sounds. It's really fantastic from that point of view. There is quite a bit of wildlife as well. So there are impala that are coming down to the shoreline. There are elephant, there are hippos. It's a really, really amazing place to camp. Obviously fishing, we're on the shores of Lake Kariba. There's tiger, there's bream, there's vundu. There's all kinds of things to catch within the lake, including crocs, so be careful of the crocs. Note that there is no swimming pool here. There are no kids' playgrounds and all that sort of thing. I think it is a very family-friendly campsite, but it is not a lodge. It doesn't have lodge vibes and that sort of thing. This is definitely not a place that you should be swimming. You should not be swimming in the lake. There are massive crocodiles here and hippos as well. I recommend highly that you do not swim and you do not have your kids trying to swim in the lake. So as I've mentioned, at this point, the campsite is a little bit bare bones. However, it's in the process of improvement, and I can see just from the dedication and the investment that they're putting into the park that this is going to be a fantastic facility to come to. I would love to come back here in a few years and see it again, but I can foresee that this is going to be an amazing site. It has a wonderful history. It was previously an absolutely fantastic site, and I can see that coming back. So what kind of camper is this for? This is pretty much a wilderness campsite, but with decent facilities in terms of bathrooms and so on. So I think if you are self-sufficient in respect of being able to get here, set up your camp, bring your own food and drinks and all that sort of thing, then you should be pretty good. There are fireplaces and firewood, so you don't have to cart all of that with you. But I think you do need a fair level of self-sufficiency. If you haven't got something, if you've forgotten something, it's a long drive to anywhere to get anything. So you've got to come here properly prepared. This is an off-grid campsite. No cell phone signal, no electricity. We've got a solar system which works very well. I mean, we are in the tropics, so you're going to get great sunshine. However, in the rainy season, you can get very cloudy days as well, which can impact on your ability to get solar. But when the sun is out in full force. So what is here? Braai stands, firewood for your braai stands, concrete platforms for your tents, although you can put your tents on the ground as well. Bathrooms with hot and cold water, hot water from a solar geyser system. Lighting at the bathrooms, a kitchen also with lighting. There's a deep freeze in the kitchen with some tables and chairs and stuff. Lots of birding, lots of wildlife, and absolutely majestic views over the lake. What's not here? No electricity, no lighting at the campsites. Although there's water, I cannot confirm that it is potable water. It is filtered, however, it is not treated. No purchaseables, so there's no shop with food and drinks and supplies and so on. No fuel, no restaurant, and very little cell phone signal. Would I recommend Tashinga campsite in Matusadona National Park? 100% yes. I absolutely love this place. Been wanting to come here for many years, more than a decade. It has not let me down. The views from the campsite over the lake are absolutely stunning. It's such a magical place. It's a beautiful campsite, and I highly recommend it if you're the type of person that wants to camp in these kind of situations, in this kind of environment. Then you should put this on your list of top 10 campsites to camp in. So I hope you found that informative. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment below as well. If you've got a question, I'll be glad to assist with information wherever I can. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you have already subscribed, then thank you so much. Appreciate all the support that we get from all of you guys. So if the channel is helpful to you, if it's helping you to plan your trips and places to go, and you want to leave a tip or make a contribution, there's a link below, and buy me a coffee, 100% appreciated. Absolutely 100% if you want to do so. So from Tashinga Camp, until the next episode, go everywhere, see everything, have a great time.